Good morning, everyone. I'm here to share about how Scale coped with COVID, moving face to face to online with a view of ensuring that learning experience is not diluted. This quote aptly captures the state of change in education institutions pre COVID and post COVID. With face to face classes remaining difficult to resume, it's time to stop thinking of remote teaching as a crisis prompted stopgap and start thinking of how can it be transformed to become a mainstream mode of education delivery. The impetus and momentum to transform online learning experience has never been stronger. Delivering courses via web applications like Teams and Zoom has allowed classes to be run, but it's worth analyzing how the learning experience is being shaped. Effective courses are often premised on an understanding that learning is not an event but a holistic experience, one which necessitates careful learner analysis, needs, and user experience which is fit for purpose. We at Scale 2 grappled with the challenge of converting face to face to online. Central to this was getting trainers, support staff, and learners ready for this transformation. We attempted to take a proactive approach and designed, developed, and implemented an immersive workshop much before COVID struck. This workshop focused on online learning experience. In this Pecha Kucha, I discuss what does designing an online experience require. First, we understand the difference between a tool and a space. Next, we consider this learning space design from a pedagogical perspective. And finally, I share insights from our experience at Scale. Speaking of learning space, in the haste of starting remote teaching, one might ask which tool to use. Since tools are part of the learning space, perhaps the question ought to be what should our learning space look like? This will take care about what tool and how to deploy the tool. So let's see the three basic criteria to evaluate a learning space. First, the ease in using the tool. It's not about getting a fancy tool, but what's our need and accordingly choose the tool. Let's say you wish to drill a hole. Which tool would you go for? I assume you would go for the power drill over the bazooka. Next, a learning space should be accessible to all learners on their devices at all times of the day. We should also consider how accessible is our learning space to learners with diverse learning needs. Is the course readable by a screen reader? What about color contrast? How heavy are our slides? Next, third, how intuitive is the learning space or the tool, both for the trainer as well as the learner? The learning space can't be overcomplicated. Instead, it should make both parties be independent and self-sufficient. Having considered the most optimum learning space, the next step is to think about how to optimize this space with learning outcomes in mind. It must be remembered that online is not offline. In this short section, we consider how commonly pain points and how do we address those. The first pain point we must have all come across is the lack of learner expression visibility. Another common one is not knowing what learners are doing in an online session. They might be drifting off or be completely disengaged. Finally, feeling overwhelmed or lost in navigation is another commonly faced challenge. So, how do we address these points? For one, rethinking the face to face learning activities is crucial. Instead of doing lectures and demonstrations online, we ought to create activities that require learners to be constructing knowledge. These could be reflections, discussions, thought pieces, and so on. Finally, onboarding of learners while also setting expectations for the online learning is extremely important to avoid getting lost in this environment. Third, having implemented some of these ideas so far, I elaborate on the following four in this section. To address the learning space familiarity and the feeling of being overwhelmed, it becomes very critical to plan for onboarding. Onboarding should be more than just a tool user guide. It should address the expectations of learners in an online learning world. It should also cover the rules and model behaviors expected of learners. Following from the learners drifting off and the need to rethink learning activities, it's critical that we consider learners as active contributors rather than passive consumers of learning content. To ensure this, trainers must exploit the learning environment and deploy activities that activate learner engagement with the content as well as their peers. Together with the role of the learner, the role of the trainer is also advanced in an online learning environment. Trainers must don many hats, such as pedagogical, social, managerial, and technical. We can't just be the subject matter experts. We also need to be the enabler of a friendly, safe, and social learning environment. In summary, moving from emergency remote teaching to impactful learning experience calls for institutions to be proactive and intentional in melding tools and design whilst leveraging on the diverse roles of the trainer and the learner. To take away, we must design and build our learning space not just to deliver content, instead a place where learners construct knowledge. Don't choose a tool or a platform just to deliver an online lecture. Optimize it for learner engagement, feedback, and assessment. Next, construct the space cognizant of learning outcomes. Once you have some idea the learning intended learning space, consider how the learner will utilize its features in the course of the module. Finally, don't forget mindset shifts. Trainer and learner mindsets will have to evolve. Trainers will have to take on multifarious roles, while learners will have to move from being towards being self directed and self disciplined. Thank you.